I felt itty bitty tiny where there was no forest through the trees, where there was no light. I've been there, depressed, upset, angry, resentful. I've been there. And that's where, when you're there, it's hard to see anything. And that's why one of the things is just getting out there and doing what you got to do. And it's the hardest thing. I mean, it's like telling somebody to go to the gym that hasn't been in the gym in 2 years. I got to go to the gym.
Yeah.
I don't hate the gym. I don't want to go to the gym. And you have to physically force yourself to go. You know what I mean? And that's what we have to do a lot of times, is physically force ourselves. There's no easy breezy. There's no tea that I can give you that's going to get you to do something. There's no pill. It's the fact that I want more. And I need to know more, and I need more knowledge, and I need that. And I think that's where we go and make changes,
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Being Inspired radio show. I am your host, Amanda Johnson, and today we are in store for another delightful treat with our guest today. She has celebrities in front of her often on her show, and now I feel like I get to be the one interviewing the celebrity. Or at least she feels like one to me. And once you get to know her and know what she's about and see the work that she's doing in the world, I think you might agree. But what I do know is that this conversation is sure to enlighten, inspire, uplift, bring something into your awareness that you have maybe long forgotten or have just recently forgotten. And so listen to what we discuss and share, and feel the inspiration in your own body, tuning into what it is that you were meant to hear in our conversation today. Today, I have a very special guest, Ashley Berges, dedicated to advocating a powerful and practical perspective for people. Ashley Berges, radio personality and talk show host of Live Your True Life Perspectives, shares the necessary tools to elevate and inspire others. The highly regarded life coach and licensed therapist is now the creator and host of a top-rated Amazon series, The Celebrity Perspective, for which she has recently won a Telly Award. Her syndicated radio show airs in over 40 markets, both nationally and internationally. Berges is also the author of the celebrated books Live Your True Life and her latest, The 10-Day Challenge to Live Your True Life, the guidebook for busy people in hopes of valuable changes. Having dealt with many challenges throughout the years, her perseverance through it all has become an inspiration for others. And that last line gives me goosebumps. So welcome to the show, Ashley.
Glad to be here. How are you doing, sweetheart?
I'm doing great. I'm really looking forward to our conversation, getting to know you better, getting to share your message and your insight and wisdom with this audience today. So thanks so much for taking the time. Yeah. So we're going to talk about what it means to live your true life. Obviously, this is a passion of yours. This is the message that you are sharing with the world. And it sounds like in many capacities, in many different ways, whether that's on your show, as a coach, in your books, as a therapist. And I'm really looking forward to unpacking that a bit more and really revealing the treasure of wisdom that is underneath it all. And what I like to do as I start off these shows is ask a very open-ended question. It's a simple question and yet not always an easy question to answer. But the question is, why do you do what you do?
Wow, that's a great question. Well, the reason why I think we do what we do in life is because we love what we do, right? We have a calling toward it. We realize those types of things. And then, the reason why I do what I do, though, directly is when I was a young kid, I used to write philosophy for my mom to read, and she would read all this stuff. And, I was throughout middle school and high school, I actually ended up being in the top 10 in national debate. And so I would write basically like concepts of defining justice and social ramifications based on certain resolutions. And my poor mom would read this stuff, God bless her. And I realized that this was great, and political stuff was really a great idea, and the idea of justice was really cool. But I really started realizing the human condition was very important. And I realized that the only way that we can get through this life is based on the fact that we have to have answers. And most of us have more questions than answers, right? Because we don't have the information we need. Our parents raised us the best we can for most of us. But given that, our parents only knew a certain amount of stuff too, because they were taught from their parents, and their parents were only privy to a certain amount of stuff. So if we're only privy to a certain amount of stuff and we're not happy with our life where it is, we have to get the knowledge. And so that has been a lifelong journey I've been on to find all that knowledge, to understand it, to take it in, to change my life, and to help other people be able to how to take their life and increment this cool information in and get rid of all that other toxic stuff that's no longer helping them, and then to live the life that they've always wanted to live.
I love that. And I absolutely adore. I love that you went back to your childhood, because it's no longer surprising me that this question can often elicit a response that takes us back to our childhood, right? That's often where we establish this belief system or view of the world, something in our own experience creates this longing or this desire to experience life in a different way or in a certain way. And especially for you, I hear that that search for knowledge, for answers, that curiosity, the wanting to understand things. And of course, that really driving you and being a source of inspiration and a source of motivation for you, I imagine, throughout your life. And it sounds like from debate stages to now here you are hosting a show where you get to, pick people's brains, right? And find out how they work and what makes them tick. I love that. I love that so much. So talk about that. So you understand we most of us have more questions than answers, right? So what is your mission now in terms of how you've brought all of these things, your past experiences with this desire for knowledge and answers together? What is it you're hoping to do, or what's your intention with all of that?
Well, my biggest intention is to educate folks and to awaken them to who they are. I think that I know where I came from. Growing up, I had a very low self-esteem, and that low self-esteem contributed to the problems in my life. And that's a common thing. Most of us have a low self-esteem. We have a low self-worth. We don't understand unconditional love. We were raised in families with conditional love. It was based on, what have you done for me yesterday? What's what grade did you get on the math test? Did you win the basketball game? And the list goes on. And unfortunately, it's not that our parents were horrible people. It's the fact that they didn't know any better, because that's the kind of love that they got as well. And I visit with clients and in my office, and it's interesting how a lot of them dealt with the concept of gifts being given. So the gift was the source of love, a source of love. And it's very interesting. And so I think that a lot of us were misguided. And I feel like the only way you can play a game in life is if you know the rules. So if you and I were playing this game and the rules changed every minute and there was nothing written down and we're just going willy-nilly with it, one, it's confusing. Two, who really wins? And three, what are we really doing? And I think that's where most of us are there is no guidelines to life. There is no handbook to life, so to speak. And so how are we supposed to be successful in something that we're not given the tools to be successful? And so that's where I am at. That's where my crossroads are, is to help people find out what they've been living with, okay, what they want versus what they've been dealing with, and then how to get there, and give them the actual tools to get there, the actual truthful tools, that have been figured out over lots of time, and then be able to contribute that way so that we can walk the journey of life instead of rushing to get to the next level saying, well, I'll be happy when I do X, Y, Z, or when I get this job and this promotion, then I'll have the name title behind me that I'll feel good about myself. Or if I just get married and have kids, or if I just start a family, then I'll feel better about myself. I'll feel loved. And I think many of us are in that trajectory right now where it's, I will do this when. I will get happier when. I will be grateful when. And I just think that we're going to do that until the end. And then the end's going to come, and then there's going to be all this regret. Why did I live my life this way? And so I'm basically helping people to stop them to ever have that regret, so that we don't ever go down that pathway. And that's what I want to do. So that's kind of from A to B.
A to infinity. I love it. And I love, again, the coming back from where we start off. We are conditioned, programmed. Thank you for acknowledging our parents are doing the best they can. We do the best we can, right? If we can see that in our parents, we can see that in ourselves, and vice versa. So thanks for that reminder. And then tell us more. What is this, as you've been studying and learning and working with individuals? And of course, most importantly, as you've done the work yourself, right? Because of course I don't believe we can't teach what we haven't yet learned ourselves. We are teaching what we learn. So what is that guidebook? So there isn't a handbook to life, but what if you started to pick apart and go, yeah, all right, these are my tenets, or these are my rules that I'm going to play by. Can you share some of those with us?
Well, yes, I can. And my latest book, The 10-Day Challenge to Live Your True Life, is that. Okay, so what I did is years and years ago, so I actually will be married 16 years this summer. So
congratulations.
Cool. So prior to that, before I met my husband, the last person that I dated and I was engaged to, I gave back the engagement ring. And I gave them a hug, and they weren't very happy with me. I don't think they hugged back. And I moved into my own place, and we moved out. I moved into my own place. I don't know what happened really on that end. And I realized that the problem with each one of these relationships, all the ones I've been in, was not just the other person. I realized the problem was also me. And so I decided that I was going to take a year off from dating and a year off from sex. And I know people go, oh my God, a year. What the heck are you trying to do? But I took that whole year off and I got to know who I was. And in the very beginning of this experience, it was really painful. It was excruciating. It was, I had like the death grip on my phone, hoping that somebody would call me to ask me to go do something because I wanted to get away from me. Because I was stuck with me, just me on my own, just me. And I said, what am I going to do? And so I had to work through that pain and suffering. And so the 10-Day Challenge is all about that. It's all about, I started off with realizing I didn't have any boundaries in any relationships whatsoever. Okay, so that was the first thing. And a lot of times people think that a boundary is like throwing the grenade, over the fence line and saying, I will not deal with this anymore. It's not, it's really not that. It's what we want to deal with in life and what we won't deal with in life. And so we just have to have those perimeters set so we know when if somebody does this, do we co-sign on it or do we not co-sign on it? And we got to do it right every time because we can't just co-sign on certain things and then come back and say, I don't agree with that. And I can't believe they're stepping on my boundaries. You got to be consistent. And that was the first thing I figured out. The second thing I figured out were negativity and the energy suckers that I was hanging out with and also going within me to see what those folks were mirroring in me. And so it continues. And I talk about expectations, about how expectations are overrated and how we expect everything to be a certain way. Anything from, you know what I'm saying? Okay. So Amanda, you go on a trip, right? You and folks are looking at a trip to go on vacation and you start looking at like TripAdvisor and you're looking at all these different sites and you book the hotel or the Airbnb or whatever. And you're looking at the pictures and you show up. And it's like, were these pictures taken in 1975? You know what I'm saying? And you're like, this is horrible. And you're like, and the beach is across the street. That wasn't part of the thing, and it's a really busy road that, people almost die on every year. And you're thinking, this is the only vacation I take this whole year. And this is not at all what I expected. Beach is across the street. It's a public beach with everybody on it. I mean, we have to cross this busy road. This place is like built in 1952. And you start getting that whole, I don't like being here. I'm not happy with being here. I can't believe I left my work to do this. And so it takes so long to overcome that hump of expectations and overcoming that. And so think about how often we do that in our own life with everybody and everything, expecting them to do something and how we get let down so bad when they aren't the person that we envisioned them to be, or they don't do what they said they were going to do, or what we think that they will do. Yeah. And so that's one of the biggest things too. And so each part of this book is based on the refinement of what I had to do by discovery and error. Just nobody was there. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I didn't have anybody there to help. And so I was basically foraging around in a room with the light off going, okay, let's see if I can figure this out. And so through time, that's when I figured out how to write this. And then I went through each one of the protocols. And so I'm basically taking someone through that boot camp that I created for myself that I was successful in doing. And so that's why I can help other people be successful, because if I wasn't successful, then I can't really offer any information,
That's right. Once we're able to first see the changes within ourselves, then we can come from this very integrated, grounded, sincere place, an honest place, like a truthful place, right? Of saying, hey, this to me is why we each have our own messages and our own unique perspectives to share, right? Because even though you may be experiencing and teaching and sharing, and you worked through something that, I don't know, Joe Schmo down the block is also talking about. The reality, the important distinction is that Joe Schmo didn't experience it the way you did, and therefore Joe Schmo won't say it the way you did. I used this analogy the other day, and it felt like a divine guided analogy, because I thought, whoa, where'd that come from? But it's as if this comes to when I'm a writer, I work with a lot of writers, but it goes the same for anything we want to share in the world. Often I know I got stuck with this. Well, who am I to say this? It's been said 1,000, 10,000, a million times before me, right? Well, at the end of the day, when we think of music, there are only so many keys on a keyboard, right? On a piano, so many strings on a guitar. You could use any instrument, but I chose the piano. And if you imagine that while there's only so many notes, think of all the various songs that have been created and played. They're all using the same keys and the same notes, right? So it's not like they're coming up with a whole new set of keys. They are utilizing the same tone, the same key, the same pitch, and the way they are expressing that is in a limitless amount of ways. Just like when we share a story, or you share a message, or you have guidelines that lead your life, they may resemble these other notes that someone else has been playing, but the way you've put them together is in a different sequence, a different chord progression, whatever you want to say. So I want to offer that because I think a lot of us, I know I went through this, we either question our own worth in that way of, well, who am I to say something or share something or teach something? Equally, I think it's important to remind all of us that, yes, we will hear the same 3 notes over and over throughout our lives, but we're going to hear them in different variations. And eventually, one of them is going to resonate with our inner, our inner musical body. It's going to literally line up and click into place. So those of you listening might be hearing Ashley say something that you've probably heard, maybe you've heard it before, but now she says it. And it's like, yes. So I love that. That was my tangent for today.
I love it. I love your tangent.
Oh, great. Good. So yes, you went through the dark, you found your way, you kind of fumbled and experimented, and eventually you came up with these 10, specifically here, you came up with 10 things that really guided you to living your true life. And now 16 years later, congratulations, in a marriage. How can you,
18 and a half years later after I went through the process, but yeah.
Sure. Great. Perfect. And it's now a long-standing relationship with this new person, which is wonderful. My question to you, and I like to ask this to help paint the picture for those listening, giving a sense of kind of that's what your life was before, low self-esteem, or maybe there's some more you want to share there. But what does life look like after? And I know we're still in it. This is an eternal journey. It's not like we're done. But how does your life feel different now than it did 18 years ago, or even 5 years ago?
It's interesting. So my self-esteem issues rooted in a situation. So I was born with a condition that nobody understood, a health condition. I was in and out of the hospital 300 days plus a year. And eventually my parents, even though they didn't really have the finances, we had to actually get a doctor that would actually be at the house and take care of. So it got pretty bad. And so I dealt through that for a large part of my life. And so I had experimental surgeries done on me beginning as early as in high school. I was almost killed on the operating table 3 times. When you go through something like this, and first off, there's no diagnosis. So everybody's fumbling on what it is. That's a problem. The other thing is that you're different from everybody else. The other thing is that when, at least around me, there were no kids going through any physical ailments around me. Okay, so there you go. So you got all that going, and you're trying to live a normal life, and you're trying not to tell people about it either because it's not something that you're proud of. So you keep it all bottled in, right? And so that's where my self-esteem issues were rooted in. Okay, and so I did not even get a diagnosis till I was 19 years old, an actual real diagnosis. And then when I was finally diagnosed, they said there was about 180 people in the world. So again, now you got this other thing too, that it's like, wow, how did this happen? How did I get the lucky person, that won that lottery? And so that really messes with your it messes with the way you view yourself. It messes because you start telling yourself, if I was really valuable, then I would be healthy. You see how the trajectory goes. And so that negative broken record begins, which I talk about that a lot. And then you start talking about that. If I was really a good person, or if God really had good intent for me, then I would have become in here as XYZ. So that's where I think a lot of your listeners can probably connect with that, whether you're dealing with, anything, cancer, anything that people are going through, that really takes away from the quality of life. And it also takes away from your identity, because you begin to question your identity. And so that's where I think your listeners deserve to know that. And that's kind of the direction of where I came from. And that's the deep stuff that started at such a young age that caused that break, in the spirit to some degree at a young age. And so and I think a lot of folks can understand that, and a lot of people can resonate with that. I think it's very similar when you're in a broken home and you're having an abusive parent. And as a child, you don't understand why you're being abused. You don't understand why you're being beaten. You don't understand why this is happening, because you're just a child and you're trying to walk through this, and you're walking on eggshells, and you're trying to do whatever you can. And that really ruins somebody's self-esteem, and so I think all these things, and I think your listeners are going through so many different things, and we don't have enough time for me to label every single thing, but I really think that is something that we get challenged through. And then that happens to be what we have to walk through as adults. As you said, we're infinite, but to make this lifetime worth living, what am I going to do to augment that in the beginning?
Yeah. Beautiful. And we're going to get to then what happened on the other side of it. And I want to first honor you, Ashley, for sharing that. And absolutely, I know I'm resonating, even though my life experience was completely different. And I'm not going to even pretend to know what you went through. Equally, I'm at a point where I believe at the end of the day, we are all connected. And so while you have, one of 180 people in the world, that's a very unique predicament, a very unique experience. So I'm not going to claim that as mine, even although I can say, I still understand what it feels like to have low self-esteem, to feel separate, to not understand. And I'm going to point this out, and then I'm going to let you continue. At the beginning, when we said, why do you do what you do? And you talked about this wanting to understand things, this drive and motivation to have the answers. Well, no kidding. Of course, that's your mission. Because at a very, very young age, there were none. There literally was no explanation for what was going on in your life, and how confusing and frustrating and that must have been. And of course, and I'm going to sit here and say, and thank you for going through all of that and surviving it and being here to now share that story and to help others understand things, because that's what you've been gifted here with, is that mission. So keep telling the story. How is life different? What does it mean to you now to live your true life? What does that look like?
That's a great question. What to me that is, I've walked through the self-esteem stuff. I've checked the broken record. I've let it go. I've changed my life mantra. I've taken my life back in my own hands. I've stopped giving power to other people. And it really began, I remember the turning point. I was doing experimental surgeries up in Colorado, and I remember the turning point like it was yesterday. They told me it'd be about 60 surgeries. They were going in under full anesthesia and injecting ethanol throughout my body to cause thrombosis. And anyway, so I was going up there for I think it was the second or third treatment, and I walked in and I saw there's not a lot of people with the condition, so it's not like there's a lot of people there, but there was about 3 people in the waiting room, and he's the specialist in the country. And there was a gentleman there, and he was getting very angry. And he was talking to the lady behind the glass, that was, checking people in. And he said, I want my Dilaudid, I want my medication. I'm in pain. And he's yelling about this morphine, and he's yelling. And so I started talking, and I said, what's going on? He said, I'm in pain. Okay. And I need to get some help. And I said, I get it. I said, I'm here because I want to take care of this. And so we had this conversation, and I think quickly enough, they whisked me out of there to go back to the doctor because I don't think they wanted a mob scene. And so I was talking to the doctors, and we had a disagreement. I said, we were talking, I said, the gentleman outside is talking about pain. And I said, I have had a handicap sticker on my car. I can't walk that far. I'm in pain. I can't even go to concerts or water parks or anything because I can't park close enough to get there. And I said, so I'm here for the pain. And they said, we thought you were here because you were deformed. And that's when it hurt so bad. And I can remember like it was yesterday. And they said, let's go on and schedule the surgery tomorrow after the angiograms and after the MRIs. And I walked out of there, and I walked out to the parking lot, and we had driven all the way from Texas to Colorado. And I was actually, with my husband now, but he was a boyfriend at the time. We weren't married. And I looked at him, I said, what do I do? And I said, you know what? I want to go. And he said, what do you mean? We drove all the way up here. I go, I want to go back to Dallas. I'm done with this. And so I walked back in, I got my MRIs, and we got back in the car, and I quietly sat a whole way back. And I realized I was going to take over my life. And I said, because I didn't come here because of a look, I came here because of pain. And so that's when I changed my entire life trajectory. And I said, what am I going to do in my life? What am I going to create in my life? And I'm not going to wait for other people to do it anymore. And I found, because I think my whole life was waiting for people to decide things for me. And will this surgery happen? And will we get this diagnosis? Will this work out? Will this happen? And I finally gave up on that. And I think in a way, a lot of us are doing that in our marriages. We're doing that in our family. If our family makes this decision, we'll do this. If my wife makes this decision, we'll do this. If my boyfriend decides he wants to get married, then we'll get married. But I'm going to wait for him to make that decision. We're all waiting on other people to decide things, when in reality, we've just put our life on hold. And that's the key, I think, of what we all need to look at is where are we putting our life on hold right now?
So powerful. Tremendously powerful. And I love how you connected that to how we're all doing it. Again, we may not have what you have. We may not be living the life that you are living, and yet we can all relate to that. May I ask, Ashley, is this something you still deal with today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not gone. I'm learning how to live with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is something that I have. And I've decided that there's a way around it. And see, I was taking everybody else's considerations of what they thought was the way I had to live my life, but they didn't take into consideration the fact of getting right with it, the fact of working with your diet, the fact of trying to, create muscle to defer the pain that you're having, to do the things that you necessarily need to do. Now, I never knew that it was really going to work out the way that I planned. It was a great idea, I'm saying, but I never thought it was going to actually work, And so one day I called my doctor and I said, hey, I've been working on this plan. I've gotten a trainer. I've changed my diet. I'm working on this. I'm getting off all medication that they put me on. I'm doing this whole cleanse thing. And I said, give me one more year with the handicap sticker, but I need to re-up for one more year. And he's like, Ashley, I'm going to write you one for a lifetime. You just need to go in there and get it and stop doing this. You go every year, you get one. You will refuse to get the 5-year. You refuse to get the lifetime one. You just need to go get it. And I said, no, I want 1 year, just 1 year. So I got the 1 year, which at the time was like a red placard. And I got the 1 year one, and he was arguing with me. He's like, I don't understand why you do that. And literally, I was able to get rid of that handicap sticker before the end of that year was up. And so that changed my life too. But I was no longer waiting on other people to make decisions. You see what I'm saying? Because
yes.
and their reasoning for what they were choosing was different than mine. And I think a lot of times we're not aligned with the people that we give all this power to.
Yes.
So our sole purpose of life is one way, and we're here on this planet to do something. But when other people interfere, when we allow other people to interfere, right? Because they're not really interfering. I mean, we're either giving them the power or not. When people say, well, it was because of them or they did this to me. And you're just like, I've been there. I understand that. I get it. But we're not the victim. We're only the victim if we choose to identify with the victim. And then a lot of us are identifying with the savior complex, right? I gotta save them. I gotta save their life. Oh, their life is so bad. I want to save it. But you sit there and you go, well, why aren't you looking at your own life? Right? That's the key. And so that's a lot of stuff that I learned. And so when I took my life back, it wasn't easy. It was a lot. It was challenging. There was days that I woke up I woke up with a lot of pain and I was down on myself. I remember the worst experience I had real quick is I got sick. And anytime that you're already dealing with something and then you get sick, I'm sure some of your listeners know it's scary. And it is a real black hole of experience because you get there and you're working so hard up that hill. And then all of a sudden you get ill or something and it just can wipe out that emotional, all that work. And it has nothing to do with you, but it's just like, it's so raw, that nerve is so raw. And so, yeah, those were the times where you started questioning yourself. And those are the times that you're like, this is stupid. I can't believe I've done this. This is, but then eventually you get back on the path and you say, okay, we got through that. Let's move on,
And thank you for sharing the realness of it, right? Because I think sometimes we can get it in our head on our path. And first, I want to commend you for taking it into your own hands. Many people in your situation could say, all 180 of you could say, oh, I'm a victim. I mean, really, you didn't choose this. You didn't ask for this. You weren't walking down the street one day and be like, oh yeah, I'll take some of that, right? Like, and yet this is why I love talking to individuals like yourself. You are inspiring because you are willing to say, despite this, I am not a victim. And not only that, but now I'm willing to say, I'm willing to pave my own path forward through this. I am willing to tune in, listen to my guidance, and whether, I don't know, however you perceive that, if it's God, if it's your inner knowing, if it's the universe, whatever it is, you're willing to get quiet enough to go, okay, I will trust that over experts, over doctors. And I'm not saying there's not a place for those individuals, because of course there is. To your point, do they resonate with what your soul desires? And if they don't, are you willing to say, thank you and no, I'm going to keep going? And your story about the handicap placard gave me chills. What a testament to really standing in it and not wavering. Equally, thank you for sharing when you do waver, because that also is going to happen. So anyone listening, it's not like, okay, now I've forged ahead. I've got my path. I'm listening. Easy peasy. Nothing ever goes wrong. I never doubt myself again. Like, no, those moments happen. I mean, I'll raise my hand. I have, again, very different path trajectory, and one that is listening to myself, trusting myself, maybe living a life unlike how others might live it. And that doesn't mean I am immune to doubt. Holy moly, right? It still comes up. So how do you handle it? How do you navigate it? Ashley, that's absolutely beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Oh, we fall down. We fall down. It's just the way it is. But you can't have it any other way, And I think some of the stuff we go through too, if you get really deep on stuff, I wonder, if we're really high evolved soul beings. I mean, who's to say that we didn't make choices before we came?
100%.
And so that means that we were in guidance the whole time, but we had to realize that guidance, and then we had to realize our choices, and then we had to get out of the reality that we create a lot of times on this planetary scenario. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't think that we're that valuable. We don't think we're that powerful, and I get it. I've been there. I felt itty bitty tiny. I felt itty bitty tiny where there was no forest through the trees, where there was no light. I've been there, depressed, upset, angry, resentful. I've been there. And that's where, when you're there, it's hard to see anything. And that's why one of the things is just getting out there and doing what you got to do. And it's the hardest thing. I mean, it's like telling somebody to go to the gym that hasn't been in the gym in 2 years. I got to go to the gym.
Yeah.
I don't hate the gym. I don't want to go to the gym. And you have to physically force yourself to go. You know what I mean? And that's what we have to do a lot of times, is physically force ourselves. There's no easy breezy. There's no tea that I can give you that's going to get you to do something. There's no pill. It's the fact that I want more, and I need to know more, and I need more knowledge, and I need that. And I think that's where we go and make changes,
Yes. So well said. Thank you. I'm going to ask everyone listening, if you need to rewind, hit that 30-second back a couple times and listen to what Ashley just said another time or two, please do. But before we close out completely today, I do want to ask you a few closing questions that I ask each of my guests. And then we're going to make sure that everyone knows how to find you and get in touch with you, because for sure somebody out there, maybe many, are resonating deeply with what you're saying. And I want to make sure they know how to get in touch and find out more and learn more from you. So the first question I ask each of my guests is, who is a source of inspiration for you and why?
Wow. The only answer I have to that one is God. That's it. I mean, I have a lot of folks. I mean, you're an inspiration. There's a lot of folks out there that are also inspirations as well. But I mean, on the level of that, I think it's about realizing that we are all part of something. And I consider it God. People can consider it whatever they want. I'm not trying to say one thing or another. I'm not pushing any religion at any sort. But I think that's what binds us all together. Like you said in the very beginning of the show, we're all connected. Well, we're all connected because of this. And I don't think that God is a man or a woman. I think it's this life force that's within all of us. And then we can seek to find that within ourselves. And I think that's what we are. I think we're living this life. I think we're pieces of God living a life on this planet. And we have an identity on this planet. And then we go back into the full spectrum again. But I think that's an interesting word that I use, spectrum. But I think that's where I would have to go with that. And I meditate every night, and I focus on a certain type of meditational prayer. And it's been invaluable to me. There was a time when I believed in it, but I didn't really believe in it. And then it kind of came all full circle when it's the aha moment, aha, you're like, okay, this is it. I get it. I don't have to explain it to everybody, but I get it. I had to come to Jesus conversation. We're all good, And I think many of us get that wake up call. It's just, are we ready to accept it?
Mm. Yes. Ooh, really good. Thank you for that answer, Ashley. What place or activity most inspires you right now?
Activity. I'm actually trying to figure out how to relax. So that's one of the activities I'm learning. I'm really inspired by. Very hard when you start working really hard and you're doing stuff. It's hard to relax, and it's interesting. It really is. It is something that we all have to do. Okay, and it's harder than ever, I think, to do it nowadays with social media, the phone. The constant texting and the messaging and for your listeners out there, it's hard. So one of the things that I'm striving for, and I still haven't gotten that successful on this, I'm always going to shine the light on when I am and when I'm not successful. And I'm trying to get right with the phone over the weekend. So I'm trying to take a 3-hour, I know it's small, but I'm trying to take 3 hours away from the phone sometime when I'm not working. And I've gotten about an hour and 10 minutes so far. And so I'm really happy about that. I mean, some people would say that's a crime. My husband thinks I'm crazy. He takes a full day off on Sunday from his phone if he possibly can. But I'm at an hour and 10 minutes on a Sunday. So I'm resonating with that. That's what I'm working on. And place to be just within myself, just really continuing to connect with myself so that when I am on my own and I am with me, I feel good about being in my own skin. And that's, you can't, once you get that, you can go anywhere. Once you can get that, you can do whatever you want to do, because then it doesn't matter anymore. It's like, and then once you get there, people all want to be around you anyway, which is crazy. You know what I mean? Like you finally start looking for solitude, and then it's like the masses come in, and you're just like, oh, okay, well, okay. And then you start realizing, isn't that crazy?
Totally.
It's so true though. It's like right when you don't need something, like if you didn't want, if you had like a whole truckload of Pez, Pez.
Yes, those little Pez dispensers.
Thing right here. So see, let's say you get a whole truckload of Pez, and you don't need any more Pez for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Literally, I'm telling you, like 100 people will show up to your office with Pez, and you'll be like, thank you for all the thanks, because you don't need it anymore, and so that's kind of my life thing, is that once you figure that out, then people want to give it to you. It's very interesting.
It is interesting, and the most paradoxical experience of life, right? And people listening out there, like, amen to Ashley. Look in your own life and see where that is true. Where is it? What's that thing that you finally relinquished the need for? And you're like, all right, I don't need that anymore. Boom. See how it has come flooding in. And of course, that is also, if you want like the answer to how do I get what I want, well, go ahead and just flip that around, come to a place of no longer needing it. And but this is sneaky, because then you can't do it because you really still want it. You can't be like, well, I don't need that anymore because I really want it. No, so then that's where you got to get real. That's where the mind and ego can get real sneaky with us. So anyway, thank you, Ashley. Another fantastic answer. That was beautiful. I love both of those. The challenge, and I'm going to take on this, like, how many hours on a weekend can I go without the phone? And place to be is with yourself. Gorgeous. Okay, last question. What's a favorite book that has inspired you on your journey?
Favorite book. I'm looking at my bookcase right now in my office. I'm trying to think about what that would be. I have some great books up there, but you stumped me on this one.
This can be super easy for some people and really challenging for others for different reasons even. But yeah,
I know my book. I know it. Okay. I was a kid, and at Christmas, I was 6 years old, and I asked for like a Barbie something, and I got a Barbie something, but I got a book, and my parents did stockings for Christmas, and I'm not for or against stockings, just they did. And there was a little book in there, and it was like a little paperback book, and it was like a long book, and you kind of flipped it, and each day it said life's little instruction book. And as a kid, and I remember, I think it was number 13, if you're in a fight, hit first and hit hard. And I'll remember that always. And that is probably my favorite book, because remember, I've always been looking for the instructions, and so that was it. So I used to have that book for a long time. I don't know where it is now, but I had it at least until the last 5 years.
Wow. My body literally like lit up from the inside out when you said the name of that book. I said, oh, you brought it all full circle. That was so perfect. So perfect. Oh my goodness, Ashley, I have had a tremendous delight. It has been a tremendous delight to talk with you. I've laughed. I have felt deep emotions and chills and all of the things in your presence. So thank you for sharing yourself so deeply, so vulnerably, so wisely with us today. It has definitely inspired me.
Thank you. And I love what you're doing, and I want to have you on my show. And I would love for you to inspire my listeners. I connect and resonate with you at a high level, and I just think you have a lot to provide the world, and I'm just grateful that you asked me to be on your show.
Absolutely. It would be my true pleasure to be on yours. And for those listening, please find Ashley. Go out, watch her show on Amazon, check out her book, How to Live Your True Life. We'll make sure there are links in the show notes, and then go to her website. Everything's there, ashleyberges.com. And that is Ashley, AShleyBerges.com. And I know she will have more wisdom and insight and inspiration and many perspectives to share with you. Thank you for tuning in and listening. If you liked this show, I will ask that you share it, like it, review it, rate it, do whatever you can do to spread these messages far and wide. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, because of course I'm having so many incredible guests like Ashley on the show every week, and I don't want you to miss a single one of them. Thank you for tuning in, spending